The Witcher: The Old World. Before we get into, why I didn't back, whether you should back, whether I'm going to back, and go through all those parts later on, let's talk just about The Witcher. The Witcher is, probably in my top 10 or 15 IPs. I'm not a massive fan, but I did play, the games back in the day. I played The Witcher 2. I binged The Witcher 2 in a very short period of time. I played probably 40 or 50 hours within like a week. I loved The Witcher 2. I actually like The Witcher 2 more than The Witcher 3. Witcher 3 I put more time into, but it was a different type of game. It was far more open world. And I just found it was a little bit too easy to exploit, so I became so powerful that even on the hardest level, it just got boring. I was specialized into potions, and I would just become ridiculously powerful. So I do love The Witcher. I, have played all the games. I think it's a great IP. I've watched the series on Netflix. Currently, I've watched season 1. I think it's really good. It's not getting really great reviews, but I think it's amazing. So I love the Witcher IP. And I just, I decided not to back. Before we get to that though, let's just, let's go through the actual game. So, in The Witcher Old World, you become a Witcher, professional monster slayer, and immerse yourself in the legendary universe of the Witcher franchise. The Old World, years before the saga of Geralt of Rivia, is full of tough choices and danger that lurks at every corner. The game thrusts players into a monster-infested realm, teeming with arcane magic, dark secrets, and dangerous places to discover. Bloodthirsty monsters that appeared on the continent after the conjunction of the spheres mean you shouldn't embark on this perilous journey. Five Witcher schools were created. They trained their adepts through brutal regimes, and once fully prepared, these now recognized Witchers set off to explore the land, seeking trouble, adventures, and helping others for coin. It's a bit of a strange description. Anyways, reasonably thematic. So let's just talk about the game first. It's 1 to 5 players. It's competitive, but it actually does have a co-op mode where you're essentially going to try and defeat a monster, sort of like Monster Hunter World or something along those lines. There's a few different pledges. The first 2 are the $70 standard and the $125 deluxe. This is euros, by the way. So that's going to be like, 180 US or something. I don't know exactly, but it's going to be somewhere around there. You do get a bunch of extra stuff in the deluxe pledge. I mean, obviously. And the main difference that I can find here is that it comes with a bunch more components, especially minis. So it looks to me like in the standard pledge, you're going to be getting little cardboard tokens with a picture on them. And I actually like standees. Standees are fine. I do love miniatures. I love miniatures, and some of the games that are coming out now have just ridiculous miniatures. But I also like standees, but these are not really standees. I think these are going to lay flat, and so not as thematic. I don't know about that. I mean, like little just tokens that lie flat. I couldn't see anything referencing standees here. It looks like everything's flat. If there are standees, let me know. It may change my decision. Anyway, so in the deluxe pledge, you get 15 monster miniatures. You get more monster miniatures down here, plastic scoring tokens, a closed tavern miniature. So essentially, you get more kind of thematic stuff. And I mean, this doesn't really help here anymore. So let's talk about the pricing. Is €70 a good price? I think it's a fairly decent price. There's a lot of components in here, but you don't get any miniatures for $70 for €70, and that's well over $100 US. And so I don't know. What are your thoughts? Is the base pledge worth it, considering it has, I think, no miniatures? Not no miniatures, but it doesn't have all the monster miniatures. It still has the Witcher miniatures. Yeah, it's got Witcher miniatures here. Wild Hunt miniatures. So, okay, it does have some miniatures. So maybe it's worth it. I don't know what the exact count of miniatures is. But $70 and $100 US ish is not a bad price for this style of game. These style of games are usually very expensive. Like if you look at like a game like Storm Sunder, its base pledge is $149. If you look at Wild Descent, it's $119 US. Kingdom Death Monster cost as much as a small car. I know, I paid it. So I think the price is actually okay. But do you think 50 euros, 55 euros is actually worth the difference between the base pledge and the deluxe pledge? 55 euros, that's a lot. Like, you're almost doubling how much it costs. That is a big, big difference. I'm wondering if it's actually worth it. Now, to be fair, the minis actually look really good. They're really good, especially the monsters. Let's just scroll down there. Like these are pretty. These are very high level. I shouldn't say pretty. Like the level of detail on here is very, very high, and so maybe it is worth it to get the extra minis. I mean, miniatures of this quality, they don't come cheap. And so let me know. Make sure you comment down below. Let me know if you think the miniatures are worth it. There's a lot of different cards. We got actions. It's essentially a light deck builder. You're going to be combining powers. You're going to be fighting monsters. You're going to be, I mean, mostly competitive, I think. I don't know how much you can get out of the co-op mode. I prefer co-op, and we'll talk about this a little bit later when I talk about why I didn't back it. I do prefer co-op, but I think the competitive part actually looks fairly interesting. It's okay to have competitive games. I play Scythe, I play some other stuff. I do generally gravitate towards co-op games, though. I think the problem with competitive games now that they have, low randomness is that if you own the game and you play the game a lot, like for example, I don't think my friends would want to play Scythe with me anymore. I've played it too many times already. I've also played it on digital. I don't think they would have a chance against me. And that's kind of the problem with some of these competitive games where there's less luck, is that the more you play it, the less fun it becomes for your friends. Now, this game, The Witcher: The Old World, it actually has, I think, a decent amount of randomness, which will mitigate some of that. I mean, it's definitely skill-based somewhat as well, but there is some randomness. So, why didn't I back it originally when I love The Witcher? It's got miniatures, which I love. The theme is right up my alley, just in general. I like fantasy, stuff like that. Well, when I first saw it, I thought, yes, The Witcher. It's coming out. I'm so excited. I love The Witcher. This is going to be amazing. And then I saw competitive. And I was like, oh, really? That doesn't seem to make sense to me. I mean, it was The Witcher 3 was a single player, adventure style game. It felt to me like it made more sense for the game to be co-op, right? Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. That's how I felt. That's how I felt. And then I started looking around and just, reading comments and talking to people, and they said, the game looks shallow. It doesn't look like there's much strategy. Maybe it's just a dice chucker and, it's just a glorified money play on the IP, right? I mean, lots of stuff that comes out, especially video games, like for a big, movie franchise or something like that, they usually suck. They're usually there just to capitalize on, the actual name, right? And that's kind of what this looked like to me. And after reading everyone's comments, stuff like that, some reviews, etc., where too shallow, looks boring, dice chucker, strategy might not be there, I thought, it's competitive and it has all these problems. Not really sure if that's something I want to get into, right? It doesn't really fit with what usually intrigues me. I really like campaigns. I like legacy games where things change. This is not really any of that. And so I was like, I think I'm just going to pass. There's so many games out there to back that are amazing. I'm actually thinking about late pledging Storm Sunder. I haven't pledged it yet. I've got to a video down in the description. It's Storm Sunder versus Wild Ascent Levon Rising. They're both games by Lazy Square Games and really cool games. Check out the video. Anyway, so that's why at one point I decided not to back it. And then, I got busy. I kind of forgot about the game. I pay a lot of attention to the board game industry, but I don't know, it kind of just, slid under the radar. And then I started seeing some more reviews pop up. I started seeing people really talk about the game. And then I went and looked at the Kickstarter page, and this game launched for like over $8 million US. And I thought, wow, for a game that, looked like it was going to be potentially kind of crappy. I mean, it did. It looked like maybe it was just a money play, and that, they're just capitalizing on the IP. And The Witcher is a bigger IP than I thought. Like, $8 million is a hell of a lot of money to raise on Kickstarter. It's got to be one of the top few games of the last 3-4 years, right? I mean, I think the record is somewhere around 12 million, 13 million for Frosthaven. Kingdom Death did, a lot as well. And so I was intrigued. So I started watching more reviews, and everybody out there, and that's kind of what convinced me. So, we've got all these reviews. Board Game Co., Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., he was loving it. And I think he has overall, he's got a ton of experience in the board game industry, and I think he's got, pretty relevant opinions. This guy too here, the King of Average, I watch him a little bit. He's, he's a guy who seems like he has principles, and he says he doesn't take money from game developers, and that's kind of, the theme of his channel is that he reviews games fairly based upon his actual opinion. A lot of, board game reviewers and stuff, they're taking money to make board game reviews, and so you've kind of got to take those with a grain of salt. But, King of Average, he's, from what I can see, he is, an honest, truthful human being. And lots of big people, like companies, board game YouTube channels, lots of big people within the industry coming out with reviews that said it's simple, but it has a lot of great nuance. It's actually tactical. It has really great theming. Like, it wasn't just slap a name on a crappy board game and call it a day and, allow the name to sell the game. The game actually has a lot of attention to detail. It replicates the world faithfully. It does a lot of things right, and it's simple, but it has a lot of interesting choices. And I love games that are simple in execution, and you don't have to deal with a ton of fiddly rules. But very complicated and interesting decisions arise from those simple set of actions, and that's what this appears to be. And then, it's got co-op now, and it's got a solo mode. I mean, it's starting to check a lot more boxes. And so I'm sitting here thinking, should I back this game? Just looking at the shipping here as well. The shipping is, it's a lot. It's, if I'm in Canada, it's 1/3 of the base pledge. More than 1/3, right? Yeah, just over. So, it's going to add up to a decent amount of money still. Like, if I get the deluxe pledge, I'm looking at over $200 Canadian. But I'm really starting to think maybe I should be backing this game. It looks pretty fun, and because I see how many positive reviews are out there from people that are, very well respected in the industry, it's got me really thinking about it. So let me know down in the comments. Did you back it? If you did, why? Did you not back it? And why? And should I back it? Do you think I should back it based upon these factors? And are you right now thinking of late pledging it? So from what I can gather from the comments, the late pledge, the pledge manager is going to open up in September. And then the game is supposed to deliver in June of 2022. Yeah. They sold 55,000 units That's not including what happens during the pledge manager and afterwards, right? They're going to sell way more than that. If you're enjoying this video too, before I forget, just go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. I put out a lot of content. I'm doing Kickstarter coverage. I do a lot of Gloomhaven coverage, and I cover other big games. Right now I'm covering Scythe. I cover other big games, and I give, nice, helpful beginner strategies, tips, stuff like that. So make sure you go ahead and check out my other stuff. Anyway, so June 22nd seems very ambitious. I mean, I would be super, super surprised. It's, a very aggressive goal. Let me know your thoughts as well. Do you think they have any chance of making that? Personally, I would be beyond surprised if they hit that, considering the success of this Kickstarter. Okay, that's it. That's my thoughts on the game. Make sure that you comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and thank you so much to all my subscribers. I couldn't do it without you.